were you surprised at some of the things you found in trying to kind of rehabilitate an older building? Would you have done that in retrospect, or maybe just kind of started from scratch?
I would say trying to get contractors in here that have experience with, this type of building.
That didn't go so well. Nothing in this building is square. Nothing, is a right angle. It's all weird. Everything's a little, I guess, modified.
You're listening to the Venue RX podcast.
What's up, everyone? Jonathan here with the Venue RX, and on this channel, we are passionate about documenting and sharing best practices around owning, operating, and managing world-class wedding venues. And we document and we talk about this a number of different ways. We have a number of different styles of shows on this channel. Today, we have a real wedding venue owner series podcast and show for you. And I love these because these give us an inside look into what it's like to run a business, what it's like to run a venue day in, day out, some of the struggles and successes the venue owners are having. And so I am really excited to welcome to the show Matthew and Kevyn from Benediction on the Square. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hey, thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
So your venue is in Texas, correct?
Yeah, we're in a little town called Leonard, Texas. Population 2,400 or so. About 30 miles north of McKinney, Texas, which is about the fringe of DFW's suburb. So a little town on the square, downtown square, like you would imagine. Small, quiet town.
That's cool. I was born and raised in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, specifically in Benbrook, Fort Worth. So down a little closer maybe to the inside of the Tri-City area, but I was just up in McKinney, maybe like 8 months ago or so, and it's amazing how much that area has grown.
That's where it's come a long way.
Yeah, that square is amazing.
One of our favorite spots around here, too.
For sure.
Yeah, it's just crazy how people have traveled north. But tell me, I want to hear about the venue, and I want to, dive into everything, all the details of the venue. But before we do that, I'm interested in your stories, like how did you come together? How did you start this venue? At what point, and why the venue industry? I'm always curious about that.
Yeah, you might want to title this episode "The Unlikely Newbie," because that's kind of what we are. We got married 6 years ago now, and that's basically our combined experience was going through a wedding in the wedding industry. I had been a bartender for a long time. My wife was in medical staffing, and I came up with a product for a Jeep Wrangler and started selling it. And at the time, we were basically out of the garage. So we had both moved back to where I grew up, Leonard, and we were going to build something or look for a building to warehouse and ship out of, basically. Online product, just a warehouse space, an address to pick up from. So we found a building on the square that was kind of run down, not in the best condition, but usable. And it turned out it was for sale. We bought it 4 years ago. I think 4 years ago, 2019. And since then, it's been like on the back burner for me, basically. In my spare time at work up here, I would just tear up a wall out, or it had probably 15 rooms in it, all different sizes, and a 1900s building, so like really old brick, had lowered ceiling, the 2x4 tiles. It had burn evidence of a fire from the 70s or so on the beadboard ceiling, all original, beautiful beadboard that ended up coming down, but it revealed these awesome 2x4s from the 50s and 60s that you just can't find anymore. We've got about 55 feet wide of really pretty rafters. You can probably see some of it in the video, but it's all original. And kind of the more we pour out of here, the better it looked, really. And it's just exposed brick and the original wood. The floors were in decent condition. My dad and I ended up redoing them. But we basically cleared it out into from 15 rooms to one about 3,400 square foot inside space.
Yeah. I didn't clear it out. He cleared it out.
We did one wall together right over here to the left, and that was the wall we tore down together.
That's cool. I'm going to circle back around to asking you, kind of what each one of you focus on as far as, when it comes to actually the business. But before we jump from the background, at what point did you decide you want to do a wedding venue? Like, was this, because you said your combined experience was just getting married, having your own wedding. At what point were you like, we can do this, or we want to do this, and where you actually kind of had an intention towards setting up a wedding venue space?
So I would say on top of that, I've kind of become the resident wedding planner for friends and stuff like that. Any party that's throwing, people always ask me, for ideas and suggestions and outside of the box thinking and stuff like that. And so, when we pour everything out of this place, like he said, it was a giant open space, and we went back and forth with many different things as far as what to do with it and that kind of thing. And party planning, wedding, like if I had a choice to go back and do it all over again, it's probably what I would do. And so we just kind of talked about the fact that there's not a lot of overhead necessarily like you would with a restaurant, having to put in like a full commercial kitchen and stuff like that. And, for our little town, our square is super charming. And so the more we talked about it, the more it became evident that,
and combined with local economics too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of restaurants around, and we don't have the time or bandwidth really to do that sort of thing. So the next best thing would be to host events and something that we think we can do on a consistent basis. And, so
that's awesome. You've mentioned a couple of times it's a smaller town.
Right.
When you started it and when you were looking at the building and evaluating it for a venue space, were you concerned at all that the local population may not support the volume of weddings you needed to do to pay for it, or was that not really a consideration?
Of course, yeah, that was a big concern. However, we knew we would get enough local support. We're not trying to rely on local support. Our goal is to get folks from McKinney, Melissa nearby, Anna, Texas. They're all really growing up Highway 75, as well as 121, which comes really close to us. So we're really trying to focus on bringing a lot of that out here. We're the only venue in town proper, and on the outskirts of our town, there's 3 or 4 or 5 really nice, farm style venues. So it's not a ridiculous place or crazy place to find a venue. It's just it's that downtown vibe versus their town ranch farm feel.
And we're also really passionate about our community, and we're hoping also that, with having the venue on the square, it might bring, a bakery to the square, a flower shop to the square, photographer to the square, and, really build the square and the community. And so we definitely took that into consideration too, to get some more businesses in here.
It's not just the natural growth of the area. There's a big water plant that was just put in just west of town. There's one of the first lakes in a long time are being built in this north and east of here. So there's a lot of growth and a lot of things going on that in the next 5 to 10 years, who knows what this little town will. We don't have traffic lights right now. So we keep saying, even on our podcast, we say it's a little town on the brink.
That's so cool. I'm so glad you mentioned the podcast, because I know we were talking about that right before we got on. Could you tell me a little bit about that, just for anyone, and maybe we can even share the link with folks?
Yeah, sure. It's basically a passion project of me and one of my best friends. We have been known to drink beer in the garage and talk, and we've always said we just need to record this and edit out the inappropriate parts and just put it out there. But this is before it was really easy to podcast. And then 3 years ago, I think I found the Roadcaster, And I was like, oh, this is totally doable. So we basically put together a podcast where we just interview somebody local, whether it's a business owner, a steward of the community, a steward in the community, somebody with a cool story that's local, that we can, get our hands on and talk to. We interview them and try to get the most out of them, just like you're doing. And after that, we might do a 30-minute just recap is what we call it. We just talk about whatever we want to, and if you want to tune in, you do. If you don't, you don't. But the main thing is that you're showcasing people from the community and just trying to preserve a little history. We interviewed a 100-year-old man that's lived here all of his life, and had some of the coolest stories you've ever heard about coming up to the square on their horse and buggy back in the 20s or the 30s, I guess. But just cool stories that otherwise are they're gone.
Yeah. Something I love and that I'm hearing come out as part of both of your stories, Kevyn and Matthew, the tie-ins to the community and really kind of helping support but encourage the community to grow. And both the venue and that podcast go in that same direction. I heard you talking, Kevyn, about encouraging a bakery and a flower shop to come to the square. And venues are that, right? Venues are that collection where you're getting 80 or 100 or 200 people together, and it's an opportunity for people to see, your area, your town that maybe they wouldn't have seen otherwise.
Basically showing off the town every time you have an event, hoping to attract all these people, like I said, from all these surrounding towns that are really growing right now. We're on the verge, but they're all looking for spots out here. We're not. You're going to be paying the prices of McKinney or Plano or Frisco, out here in the sticks, if you will. You get a little bit more for your money out here.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk to me a little bit about the pricing. Let's get into that. I know, share with me. There's so many different pricing models, right? Whole day rentals, renting it by the hour. What's the current pricing model that you guys are using?
Yeah, that's something that we kind of went back and forth on. We looked at obviously comparable places and how they're doing it. Looked all even guests of your show to see how they're doing it. And I've been listening to your show for a while, and I came across the one review you had. I forget his name. I want to say he was from San Diego as well, but he suggested that he had a pricing model that really worked and really it kind of weeded out some of the difficulties of pricing, and he structured it, or the way he described it was pricing like the airline fee. Different days have different prices, and that's just by the hour is how we did it. And so Monday in June is obviously different than Saturday in February. Actually, they might be the same the way I described that. However, the Monday through Friday is less, Saturday is different, Sunday is different, and then it goes up seasonally and day by day, month by month.
How long ago did you make that switch over?
We did that just after the new year. And before that, we had basically blanket pricing, Monday through Friday is just about, and for Friday, Monday through Thursday, we did Friday and Sunday, probably the same rate, and then Saturday had its own rate. But that was, for a 12-hour or 13-hour full day rental. Well, no, but not everybody wants to do that. And that's what the guy you were talking to was saying. There's a lot of those, people that would spend prime dollar on Saturday. They might not want to pay that much. They might just look at a Friday 2 weeks earlier that's a little bit less. And that's kind of how we structured it.
I realized as we were talking that I jumped ahead a little bit. I have one more question about when you were building. You said you did a lot of you refinished the floors. It kind of kept clearing stuff out. The two of you knocked down a wall together. Were you surprised at some of the things you found in trying to kind of rehabilitate an older building? Would you have done that in retrospect, or maybe just kind of started from scratch?
I would say trying to get contractors in here that have experience with, this type of building. When
to deal with it was kind of hard to find. It was hard to find a GC, and we kind of went that way. However, that didn't go so well, so I kind of GC'd myself. And,
yeah.
And again, nothing in this building is square. Nothing, is is a right angle. It's all weird.
Vintage charm. That's what we like to call it.
Yeah, everything's a little, I guess, modified, if you will. It's just an old building. But overall, it went pretty smoothly. A few things took a little longer, but considering what we're working with, we didn't know what we were getting into, to be honest, with leaky roofs and things like that. So it actually went pretty well. We got it all done within a year.
Oh, wow. That's great. And that leads me to my next question. Zoning and permits and things like that can be a total nightmare. Tell me about your experience with getting permits, the correct zoning, all the stuff you needed to actually start hosting events in the space.
Yeah, we're already zoned the commercial and all that sort of stuff. As far as permits go, there's a few things we need permits for. We're a pretty small town. City Hall's right across the street, so all that's pretty straightforward. The crew, the administration at City Hall is not big, so who you're dealing with. It's not like all the red tape of a big town, a big city, I guess. So all that's been pretty smooth. No issues, from us, and the city has loved us doing something, to get people here too.
And they've also given incentives and stuff as well, which has been awesome.
Yeah, I would bring that up. I know in Texas, I think the B2, B3, B4 committee, B4, the B4. Actually, it's some letter and number. I don't know. B4 committee. Anyway, they have grants for old buildings like this to basically the facade grant. And what they'll do is they'll match you up to, I think, $5,000 to upgrade the front of your building. And we took advantage of that when we first started here. We tore a lot of the front of the building off that had this old, ugly awning, put in a new awning, new windows. So that was one of the first things we were able to do to drastically change the look of the building and the square. And that was a lot of help and welcome as well. But that's available to anybody with an old town, old building in Texas, as far as I know, maybe outside.
Well, and I was just going to ask for anyone who's listening to this right now and who's considering doing something similar, maybe, where did you find out about that information? How did you learn about that?
One of their committee members, I'm sure, told me about it. I wouldn't say B4, Economic Development Committee is basically what it is. But yeah, we're all friends and talk, stuff in towns and small towns there. So once they saw that we bought this and we're doing stuff, and we were told by a few people like, hey, you should take advantage of this, and it was a big help.
For sure.
That's huge. There's I think, because I'm thinking in my city here in San Diego and in the surrounding cities, there are economic development people. Now that I'm thinking about it, there are economic development people, and they've been really, really helpful connections in working with small businesses. So that's a great resource and I'm glad you mentioned it.
Yeah, if you're spending money and they're willing to match some of it, then that's what they want. And that's what obviously helps you out too, and hopefully gets you a little bit better product too.
Yeah. Tell me a bit about the space. So you said you have 3,400 square feet of kind of open space. It used to be, you said 15 individual units?
Yeah, something like 15 different rooms. All of it's cleared out. The drop ceiling's gone. All the beadboard, actual original ceiling is gone. So exposed rafters. You can see the poles behind us. There's two sets of poles. The one that you see in another set to my right here, that kind of divide it into thirds. And that's how the original building would have come in basically 20-foot wide, separate units. But somewhere along the line, somebody came in here and took all the brick out, I would assume. I don't think it was built that way. And put these poles in. So it's basically one large, from the street, it's about 55 feet wide, and then about 60, 70 feet deep. And inside of that, we've got a bathroom, we've got a little prep kitchen, just back here to our right. And along the poles, we installed a 60-foot curtain track. You might be able to see the curtain over my shoulder here, back in the back. But it runs the length of that whole pole thing, so you can divide it off into thirds. And that's how we do the ceremony, divided down the middle. So we're sitting right now where the ceremony would be, with curtains going down the side.
Makes it easier to flip too.
Then we have all our
tables, ceremony to
tables all staged behind the curtains, ready to go. Wedding party goes outside on the patio, which we've got a 1,400 square foot patio outside with LED lights and like whiskey barrel, 10-foot poles. Looks really
Cafe lights. Yeah.
Yep. So you go out there, we flip it inside, you come back, and you should have a brand new room, ready to go for reception.
Nice. So cool. I was wondering how you did the space planning, because I see the room that you're in right now. And anyone who's listening on the podcast, we do have the video component of this. So you can see what they're doing. This room I'm seeing, and I am assuming it's kind of a mirrored image to your right shoulder, right?
I'll tilt it just a little bit for you.
Beautiful.
There's a
perfect.
Over my shoulder. There's a prep kitchen over here that takes up a little bit of the space, and then the bathroom is actually in the corner. A really cool part of the bathroom is actually the bridal suite. There's a little hallway into the bathroom that's got a full-length mirror at the very back of the building. So this full-length mirror is actually a Murphy door. Have you ever heard of one?
I've heard of a Murphy bed, a Murphy.
Right. This is a Murphy door.
It's a secret passage.
The secret passage into the bridal suite. So we've got this little, basically looks like a speakeasy bridal suite, right back there in the back. Yeah. But that's it's like kind of the coup de grace of the building. It's really, really cool and it's a wow factor.
It blows people's minds.
Yeah.
You open it.
I've never seen a Murphy door. Like I said, and there's a Murphy.
You got to check it out. There's a couple different versions. We got it from Murphy Doors, the company in Utah, I think. But they do some cool things. Pantry doors that look like a hidden this or that, a bookshelf or gun rack, cool cubes.
Yeah. Very cool.
But yeah, Murphy Doors is where it's at.
Oh, I'm gonna have to get into that because ever since I was a kid, like any sort of trap doors, like push a little,
oh, for sure,
little Indiana Jones action, right? That's cool.
Probably my proudest part of it.
That's what I was gonna say. The one thing he demanded. He was like, "This is happening."
Then we've got 3 vanities back there, and that's actually where we do our podcast as well. I kind of divided the bridal suite into a podcast studio as well.
That makes sense. Tell me about your operations team. I know we were talking a little bit about, you flipping ceremony and reception. Is that you guys? Do you have employees? What does that look like?
You're looking at it. We're a skeleton crew. I'm here Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 all the time. Anyway, and then any events that we end up doing, I'm pretty much the guy in charge unless we're out of town. My folks have filled in for us, my mom and dad. We haven't been overloaded yet, so we're hoping to get to that point.
Cool. So let's, I said I would wrap around to asking what each one of you do. What are the hats? There's obviously sounds like you have the set of tear down hats, but what are the hats?
I'm gonna say you're looking at Joanna over here, and I'm Chip.
I love it. Okay, all right, bring that down for me.
She's like, Chip, take down that wall, and I'll take down the wall.
Yeah, I pretty much say what I want. He makes that happen. So
that's why you're looking at 15 chandeliers.
Yeah.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah. I honestly, he does so much for this business, so much for the venue. And I have a full-time job still that, I do Monday through Friday. That's, pretty demanding, but, he does a lot of it. But, I'm in the background.
Well, we started with that expectation.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was basically my pet project. I've got a seasonal business, so in the winter time I'm really down, and then basically spring, summer, fall, I'm busy. And that may end up interfering, but I'm interested in that happening, to be honest.
Cool. How many weddings have you done so far? And what are you kind of looking to do?
We opened up actually with a last-minute wedding within a month of opening. We had somebody down the street that was doing a backyard wedding and got rained out.
Okay.
And asked, "Hey, you guys available?" We said, "Absolutely, come on in." That's where we're supposed to get the arbor, on the left shoulder too. You can just leave that if you want. And, I'm paying him a couple $100 for it, but he was happy to get rid of it. That was our first one. We've booked a couple wedding reception flips we've got coming up. So that is exciting. And should be testing the waters. I've told them all that it's going to be our first or second one, so bear with us. But I've explained, to everybody how I see it working, and it's just a matter of putting that, plan into action.
Absolutely. Going back to what each of you do, who handles, kind of the accounting, taking the payments or deposits or things like that? Who's kind of wearing the accounting admin hat?
That's me too.
I like it.
Yeah, I've pretty much, I'm over production, and at this point, Kev's good at advice. She tells me, yeah, she's my consultant. Let's say we've got a sign that we're putting up right now. We just had a big neon LED sign, not actual neon, but the LED strip sign made, and that's our latest back and forth on how to get that done.
Yeah. So then, as far as client communication goes, and I know you said you have a background, or like everyone asks you to plan their events and things like that. Are you planning these events for the couples who are getting married there, or is it more of kind of a blank canvas space where you're just letting them come in and do their thing?
We're kind of right now just letting them come in and do their thing. Of course, if they ask, do you have a day of planner or, a wedding planner, I would absolutely jump in at that point. And we haven't really crossed that bridge yet, but like I said, if I could go back in time, that's probably, it would be a passion of mine, so I would absolutely be available if they asked for it.
That makes sense.
Otherwise, you're looking at the baldest wedding planner that you've ever seen.
Hey, I think you could do it. You sound pretty capable. You sound like you could figure it out. If you're putting up those chandeliers, that's pretty.
Well, I appreciate that. One thing I will say, I've heard y'all talk about this, and one of the interviews you had mentioned it. She suggested booking things immediately, like before construction's finished, and I didn't know how to play that to begin with. We didn't know. I don't like to sell something until it's ready.
Yeah,
that it doesn't feel good to sell something that you may not be able to provide. If that year of construction had gone 2 years, then I don't want to owe anybody money and not be able to produce what they paid for.
Yeah.
So that was the one thing that we didn't really take or had really advertised booking at all until we were pretty much ready to go. And even then, it was a little premature. But I would probably go back and start about 6 months out booking things, because obviously people look a year out, and you got to have that business to get you going up front too, and those photos, people having events.
The interest. Doing that interest.
Yeah. We were lucky to have a lot of local folks in the event pretty quick within.
Well, even when the building was under construction, on a personal level, we were doing, birthday parties here, and so a lot of the local people got to see the transformation as well. I mean, at one point we were in here with no central heat and air, middle of summer, big party, but everybody was just like, can we do a party at your place? So, a lot of the local people did see the transformation for themselves. Yeah. So even though it wasn't paid and booked for, I think we did a lot of advertising that way.
That is one piece of the advice I'd reiterate, is to book whenever you feel comfortable. Don't wait until you're finished, because there's lead time.
That's a really interesting point. And as my company has looked to manage new properties, there's some properties that we look at that aren't built yet. And there's some properties that we look at that are built, they're finished, but they want to know, that same question, when should we start marketing? I really feel like you should start marketing when you have that vision that you can portray to your client. And as soon as you do that, as long as you give them a deadline to say, hey, by this time we'll be open and we're releasing these dates, it almost creates a bit of excitement, and as long as they're the type of couple that's willing to flex with the date a little bit if need be. Some people are really locked in on a specific date. Some people are willing to be flexible. And so sometimes those early clients and couples end up being people who love the space so much that they're willing to be a little bit more flexible with how things play out.
Sure. Yep.
One quick note on that also, I'm wondering when you started booking, so you're booking now, right? What marketing avenues are you using?
For right now, we've just really done Facebook. Haven't gotten into Google, and we haven't gotten anything like the Nod or anything like that yet. I'm kind of conservative when it comes to just throwing, your hat in some advertising pool and testing the waters. And I don't even know how to market for it. Being like I said, a newbie and somewhat on anyway, being a newbie venue owner, I don't know how to market it, and it's a completely different marketing tool than Jeep product. So I'm kind of having to refigure out, Instagram trends and hashtags and all that sort of stuff too. I had a product, and this is how I got into all that, is a product that I can look up the hashtag no doors, and a bunch of Jeeps with no doors would pop up. And that was like the easiest way for me to access, customers. And with this, I'm not quite sure how to do that. So I'm trying to figure that out. And,
yeah. And I've been saying, we need to get vendors on board. We need to
an open house.
do an open house. We need to get local vendors on board where they're, putting our information out there. That's the next step is, to get the
organizing
the preferred vendors list and, get bridal shows, get ourselves out there.
It's so cool, and thanks for being willing to share that and come on here, because I think there's this maybe misconception in people's minds that it goes from inception, like when you're thinking about it, to construction and then done. And now it's just the second that you build it, you're going to be, full of clients. It takes, once you build it, that's half the battle. Then you got to actually market correctly. Yeah, absolutely. And that's interesting. I know you said you listened to the podcast a little bit. It's kind of a mixed bag on using those wedding directories and some of those platforms or not. So when you think about, the marketing that you're going to do for the space, are you primarily looking to do weddings?
It's kind of a weird spot that we're in. We can definitely, 150 people is what we have chairs to max out at. We've got 20 round 60-inch tables. That's where we are as far as capacity goes. And 150 people is about our max as far as getting people in here for a ceremony, just in this middle portion. It's not like too packed or anything. As far as chairs, that's what we're maxed at. 150 person wedding gets a little cluttered, so it depends on what the bride and groom think about that. I don't know what the consensus is on that, but if you want a bigger place, obviously this is not the biggest in the world. Our sweet spot would probably be about 100 to 125 or so. But no, weddings are not primarily. We've done receptions, the local high school prom. We just had the Chamber of Commerce banquet here.
Christmas parties.
Family Christmas parties, which was kind of unexpected. We've done quinceañeras, memorials, a lot of things I kind of didn't really expect necessarily. Surprise birthday parties. That was the first that was Mark's birthday party. No, it wasn't a surprise, but he had planned it for probably a month. And I was finishing up construction at the time. So that was our first big party. And it was a good way to showcase it to the town, too. So there's a lot of local folks that were here. So that was kind of our grand opening.
That's cool. I like that.
In September, August.
Grand opening doubles as, an event for someone. I always think that's a great way to do it. If you do a styled shoot, make it some sort of vendor party after that also, so you can space.
And that's the thing. We had to show it with people, and we had to show it with full of tables. And we had never seen it like that. So it was just nice. And he had a band too, so it was set up pretty well. A nice entertaining evening.
So tell me about what your vision for the future looks like. Benediction on the Square. What does it look like as far as the amount of events you want to have? Say 2 or 3 years from now?
Yeah, we're kind of rolling with the punches here. We don't know a whole lot what to expect. With natural growth of the area, we're hoping it'll, naturally grow with the area. Long term, we'd like to have some sort of restaurant or something like that in here, like pivot to something a little bigger, different, something like that. But the time being, I've heard a lot.
Want to be booked solid.
We want to be booked solid. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Yeah.
We want to be booked solid, and I think also he mentioned the patio space. I would say one thing our town that is a challenge. We don't have a hotel in town, so people have to get here and get home. We've talked about even like in our patio space, maybe making like a boutique hotel or something next to it, eventually one day, just to have an even bigger spot for brides to, get dressed or, and have a place for people to stay. So we've talked about that as well. But definitely want to book it as much as possible. And,
we're also looking to do some events too. We'll organize events. Do some things up here as well. That's what we'd like to do.
Very cool. I was asking because sometimes folks want, to do 20 events a year and kind of cap it at that. Some people want to really blow the doors off and do 100+ events. It kind of depends on, what the owners have in mind for it, what the vision.
We are yes people.
I do something every day of the week. If you let me.
Cool.
All right, can you do this? Yes.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah, the lodging piece. So I wanted to ask about lodging and then any insurance stuff. So you kind of mentioned lodging in the area, not really. Are there Airbnbs or like anything like that, or really commuting?
No, we're actually considering, we bought some land out here that we're going to build on hopefully next year, our own personal house, and we're talking about making it an Airbnb for a solution.
Yeah.
So if we have a wedding, they could rent out the house as well. His parents live next door, so we'll just bunk with them for the weekend. But I'm sure there are. I haven't really researched.
We're in a tough spot between McKinney, Texas, Greenville, Texas, Farnham, Texas, and Sherman, Texas. It's about 25 to 30 miles from any of those towns, and those are all going to be your hotels.
When we got married, there were people that brought a party bus, and we got married out here on his family's land, but we had a party bus that brought people out here and took them back. So that it is that.
And that's what all these farm venues. I'm pretty sure they've got either connections or some sort of travel accommodations to get people back.
It's cool that you have something different from that farm, that kind of barn vibe, because I know that was really, really popular for sure. And I think it still is fairly popular, but you definitely see folks looking for more different alternative styles of wedding venues as kind of a trend goes. And I think having, like you guys have, a blank canvas space that lends itself to a number of different styles of events makes a lot of sense.
Yep. Yeah, we also did we got one of the 360 video photo booths.
Okay.
It's been a lot of fun. Good little promo tool and just one of those things you can rent out to anybody anywhere.
Yeah. Those 360 photo booth things are amazing. I saw it at Wedding MBA a couple years back, and I know they have them at NACE, some of the different events. Speaking of that, are there resources that you guys have used as you're learning about this space, mentors, people that you've maybe even events like Wedding MBA or anything like that you guys have tapped into to keep learning about your space?
Good question. We've kind of playing it by ear, to be quite honest. Yeah, we've had a few people that Tanya's been interested in doing their folk show / looks for a dress company nearby.
Open house.
Yeah, open house. We've definitely picked a lot of brains. I'm not going to say we haven't, but we kind of we had a basic idea. I was focused on just creating the product and getting something rentable was my main goal. Transforming it from nothing to something that can at least revenue.
That's cool. I hear the product I can tell like you're really passionate about the product, and products driven entrepreneur versus like a service driven entrepreneur. And the wedding venue is a very weird combination of both, I think, because you have the product, you have the physical space, but then you have the service of hospitality and bringing people in and helping them have a good time. So
I'm a bartender for 10 years, so I've got a little bit of that too. So
I was going to say, between the staffing, the medical staffing, and the hospitality from the bartending, I mean, you'll make a pretty good couple entering this business, taking those two sides. As you start, if you are, like you said, booking every day, or you're getting 40, 50, 80 events, you're going to need staff. You're going to need team members. So
well, we're trying to make that the problem.
Yeah, I love it. Love that.
Yeah, and I would say, he's more of the, I hate to say the creative, but the entrepreneur side of things. And, I've been in medical staffing for almost 20 years. So I have the business, the contract, all of that. And then, like I said, I mean, I love, helping with weddings and stuff like that. But he definitely is the man behind Benediction, without a doubt. So
I want to wrap up just by asking a quick question about the back end of your kind of systems and things. You mentioned contracts. Are you having people pull insurance for the day of the event? No need. And then are you using any sort of CRM or anything software related?
We have done, we don't require day of. We do not do security. We do TABC bartender, that sort of stuff, just to cover that if alcohol is being served. As far as CRM, we're just keeping it pretty simple with a Google Calendar and basic, I mean, there's not a whole lot right now, to make it moving more. But just keeping it simple right now.
Cool. Love it. Awesome.
Simple contract, sign contract, file it, put it in the calendar.
Depending on how many events you have, sometimes adding in extra systems at a certain point, with not having a ton of events makes it more complicated versus less, versus just having some of that. But I mean, I'm
not afraid to do it. I like the personal touch, and that, the personal client, relationship is important to me, that they can call or text me at any point, message me on Facebook, and you're going to get a response, and you're not going to be, worried that, we're not going to be open or something like that. That's important to me, that you're comfortable in what we're going to provide.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I just want to thank both of you for spending your time today, sharing about your venue. It honestly it's a beautiful space. I'm excited for you. I think you've got an awesome product, and I think it's going to be, really popular. I think it's going to anchor the area and the community, like it sounds like it's already doing. And so I'm excited for you guys.
Well, we thank you very much for the opportunity to come on here. And I appreciate what you're doing. Just as the unlikely, listener.
We didn't mention you as a resource, but clearly.
Yeah. I mean, your podcast was a good thing too. I got a lot of pretty good advice, I guess, from it. So yeah, keep doing what you're doing. I think it's pretty useful to all venue owners.
Thank you. I really, really appreciate that. It's when we got in the business 3 years ago, I did the same thing you did and kind of searched on Spotify and Apple iTunes, like, hey, venue podcasts. And there wasn't a lot there. And so it was like, I had another podcast, just kind of like, what you're doing, and said, gosh, maybe there's a chance to do this, tell some of the stories and things like that. So appreciate you making your story part of that. And yeah.
If you want to check out the podcast, it's the 12 o'clock siren.
Oh, good. Yeah. And then make sure we'll connect. Make sure you send me that link, because we can put that in the description so people can check it out.
Yeah, a little pro tip. Every day here at noon, a siren goes off for like the lunch bell.
Okay.
We're old school like that, so that's the name of the podcast, is the 12 o'clock siren.
The 12 o'clock siren. I dig it. Okay.
Local news.
Very cool. Matthew, Kevin, thanks so much for hopping on. If people want to connect with you, they want to check out the venue, they just want to ask you questions, whatever, what's the best place to reach you?
Yep. We're on the Facebook, Benediction on the Square. We're on Instagram, Benediction OTS. Benedictiononthesquare.com. I know it's a lot to type in. Event at benedictiononthesquare.com. It's very email.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for spending your time with us today. We will talk to you guys soon.
You bet. Thanks for
Thank
your time.
you so much.